So the fourth and final competency that makes up emotional intelligence is your ability to manage social relations or relationship management. And again, this is the crown. Self-awareness is the foundation. Building on that foundation, of course, your self-management. And then social awareness is where things really you start to see more of the return on investment in your work environment and perhaps even in your personal situation. But now we're going to get into relationship management, and that's where your transformational leadership skills all start to come together. So, social management or relationship management is acknowledging that relationships are the currency of the workplace. That's where the value is. And one of the questions you want to ask yourself is just to, kind of for instance, is are you 1 or 2 phone calls or emails away from anything or anyone that you need? Have you built those bridges? Have you maintained those connections? Or do you have a rather colorful past where bridge burning was a big part of what was going on? So you really want to, from this point forward, be able to say you're 2 phone calls away from anything or anyone you need, or 2 emails away from anything or anyone you need, because you have developed connections. You have realized that relationships are the currency of the workplace and the foundation and the value, the added value in your career. And you have not only made these relationships, but now you have the ability to sustain them. It's a proficiency in being able to obtain desirable outcomes from others because they want to participate, not because you're forcing them, telling them they have to, or they fear crime and punishment if they don't. But you start to develop an enthusiasm for the work by the people in that team led by you. And individuals with sound social skills are natural leaders and effective parents, and they recognize that personal success and team success are one and the same and absolutely married and inseparable. And there's a way now of the way they conduct themselves demonstrates that. There's a flow, a nice energetic flow. They really are enjoying being with the people that they're with. It's because they're so comfortable in their own skin. They've enjoyed now the journey of self-discovery, the mastery of self-management, that now turning those skills to the larger public, and especially those that they're working with, has become fun. And it's become something that people admire, and you are able to role model. And the real foundation of transformational leadership is inspiration, and this is the competency for that. So they lead by example and inspire others to do their best, and they encourage in a positive way. It's almost like they don't need to encourage. Their presence, their ability, how they handle themselves is the encouragement enough for people to say, someday, I'm going to be like that. So, relationship competency takes various forms. It's more like, it's more than just being, easygoing and having, the ability to really make good small talk. The real social competency abilities include being able to tune into another person's feelings sincerely, effortlessly, understand how they think and what they think, and appreciate it again from a standpoint of curiosity as opposed to a standpoint of judgment. And you're thinking in terms of, well, maybe that's different or that's a little left of center. But now you're in a place where you're not going to judge that. You're going to stay curious and think to yourself, I wonder if different and a little left of center is exactly what my team needs at this point to get us to the next place. So that diversity becomes really valued. That the fact that people think differently and approach a project differently, the coordination of effort in a social group is now something that you can stand back and appreciate, and more importantly, orchestrate. That You know, it's the old story of what does the conductor do? Well, they play the musicians. The musicians play the instruments, but the conductor plays the musicians. And this is the gift that comes from having good relationship management skills. You know, you become a great team player, but you start to lead great teams as well. So look at the competencies involved in this, because as you can imagine, this does not come easy. So, number one, there has to be a commitment to developing others. And more importantly, it's not just a commitment to developing others, it's a joy. It is the thing you look forward to most. You are so invested in your team and you see such talent around you that you really want to give them opportunities to stretch and grow. You want them to be able to walk the path of emotional intelligence that you have to get to the place that you're at. There is an enthusiasm about that development. You become an automatic inspirational leadership. People just can't get enough of you. You know, you inspire the best. And you inspire in such a way that even when your team falls short, there is a graciousness and understanding about that there's humanness in this team too, and we can do better next time. There's a sense of proportion that adds a layer of compassionate humanism to this inspiration. Not that you always have to inspire to greatness, but you can inspire to comfort and be human and be compassionate as well. Your sphere of influence will be like none other. You know, the influence that you have to understand when you are developing this competency, it's not power, it's influence. You know, a lot of people go for power in their career, and it's really the ability to influence, which means you may do better as a number two, or you may do better in your work behind the scenes, because you can orchestrate things to influence a situation or influence an outcome. You also need the gift to be able to communicate an idea. So communication is an essential competency to be able, of course, to be relatable and to conduct yourself well in social settings. Being comfortable with change is not easy for anyone, but it must be easy for you as a transformational leader. So you need to be a change catalyst, and not just change for change's sake, but real change with a goal and an objective in mind. And you have to take your time with change, because crossing T's and dotting I's are so important. This is so critical because so many people get lost in the process of change. So many people feel disrespected, not included. I wasn't, you know, I never saw the memo. I wasn't included in that decision making, although it impacts on my team. You really have to take your time to really mold change, being a change catalyst with communication, so that the next competency, which is conflict management, is something you only have to develop on a very rare basis. If you do the communication well, then hopefully conflict management is not something that's on your plate on a daily basis, as it may be right now. So conflict management is vital, and you know, it doesn't come away with a winner all the time, and someone who has good emotional intelligence knows that, and hopefully can communicate that to their team. That, you know, there may be, you can only come away with something, not everything. And while I'm going to see your point of view, you have to understand there's probably 5 other point of views. And to be able to negotiate your way through conflict, to come to some type of resolution that declares a truce, if not peace, is vital. And then, of course, building bonds. And building bonds, again, is really valuing relationships as the currency of the workplace. You really want to make sure that you're not just making relationships for usefulness purposes, but you're making relationships because you see the value of them, and you see how that plays into the end goal for everyone. The team that comes from that, the synergy that comes from that, is priceless. So building bonds and really working a network and really developing a sense of collaboration is an extraordinary competency, but a vital one if you're going to have relationship management anchored. So let's talk a little bit more about the power of building bridges. All right? It requires that you build a bridge brick by brick, which essentially means that you have to work on building trust each and every day. You have to be consistent. You have to be true to your brand. And this being said, you can see the reason why self-awareness and self-management build up to the ability to be in a relationship management mastery. If you don't know who you are, and you certainly don't know how others see you, or worse yet, you think you're one thing and others see you as quite different, well, this is never going to happen for you. This relationship management is you're never even going to get onto the threshold of it. But if you really are self-aware and, more importantly, are someone who can act with intent consistently, day in and day out, where you have the power of trust and people can count on your personal brand of leadership, well, this building bridges is just a natural outcome of that. All right, so building trust each and every day, finding ways to make sure that you're following through on commitment, that you're visible and approachable. You're going to have to work with, if you have a secretary or someone who manages your schedule, you're going to have to work with them to weave in times where, this is your time to be on the unit and do all of those roundings that are necessary. This is your time to, find out how systems work. Take a half a day and try to do this job and really experience where your people are up against what appears to be an immovable object. But be visible, be approachable, and be in your staff's shoes so that when they come to you with a concern, you can certainly embrace the value of what they're saying. Practice your ability to build consensus. Again, consensus doesn't mean 100% of agreement. It means that you have a significant number of people who are ready and willing to do and buy into the vision. And hopefully, as we start moving towards that vision, the rest will come along. Okay, so you have to communicate, and you have to communicate, and you have to communicate. And you have to find ways of being able to communicate even more. So it can't be just the never-ending email, and it can't be the voice message. I honestly believe that if you want to do relationship management well, face-to-face is the best thing that you can possibly do, especially in this day of digital, where just communicating electronically to one another seems to be the new norm. The value of taking the time to speak to someone face-to-face cannot be overestimated. So take your time to explain what's behind your decision. Answer questions, be transparent, be vulnerable to the scrutiny that can come from, good discipline drill down onto, well, why indeed are we making this decision, and is it indeed the best one we could make? Ensure people that they're heard, all right, and that you are looking for common ground. Common ground. It may not be that there's a winner here, but we can find a way to have common ground. Employ diplomacy. I don't particularly care for the word compromise. I always feel like someone's losing when we compromise something. I prefer the word negotiate. All right, let's negotiate here so that we come away with a win-win. You come away with something that you want, I'll come away with something I want, and we'll work together because we have come away with something that we're both winning, and we can find a way to work together now and build that relationship so maybe we can have additional win-wins down the road. And then you have to learn how to accept feedback without getting defensive. And I know that's hard. It's hard because you work so hard and you try so hard, and it always seems like someone's telling you you're not good enough or measuring up. But you're going to find that if you've done this emotional intelligence work, that you're going to be able to accept feedback for exactly what it is, factual, objective feedback on a given issue, not on your life, not on who you are as a professional, and certainly not on who you are as a person. You are going to be able to accept the feedback in the moment and keep it in perspective, and learn from it, and grow from it. So, nurses don't do a good job of disagreeing with poise. We are natural advocates, which means that we debate a lot. And we don't necessarily lose the debates gracefully. We have not learned to disagree without becoming disagreeable. I don't know where we dropped this ball in school, and I'm sure that it wasn't covered in any of my, master's and postgraduate work, but indeed, it's a gift that's necessary. You have to learn, if you're going to sustain relationships, you're going to have to realize that not everybody's going to get along in the sandbox, but in the sandbox you stay, which means you're going to have to work together tomorrow. So winning in the moment, sure, that might feel great, and you might just sabotage the rest of the month. Doesn't make any sense to me. You want to resist going for the self-righteous point of view, which is what advocacy seems to be for nurses. We're all talking about professionalism and patient safety and all of that, and we pull out those kinds of words when indeed what we're saying is we don't necessarily want to change. So be mindful of yourself. Are you advocating for the sake of arguing? Or are you really championing a point that's important? And then you're going to have to find a way to communicate the difference. But if you lose gracefully. All right, lean across the table, shake the other person's hand and say, you did a better job than I did today. Good for you, but I'll be back tomorrow. And walk that person out and buy them a cup of coffee. Okay, because it's not personal, it's business. And we have to keep things in perspective in order to sustain relationships. So little things are super important, all right? Be courteous at all times, respect people's time. You know, if they need for you to, if they say, well, I only have 15 minutes, then you keep watching your watch because they only have 15 minutes. And always capitalize on a moment to recognize their accomplishments. Try to lighten up, enjoy what's going on, and have a little fun. Use humor where appropriate. Self-deprecation always works for me. And what can be gained? Well, everything, in a word. All right, anchoring the basics of service leadership, transformational leadership skills, really recognizing and appreciating the synergy of your team. But quite honestly, when you get to this point in emotional intelligence, at some point you're going to turn around and look back on the path that you have traveled. You're going to remember how difficult it was to get through self-awareness and how challenging it was to get to self-management. And then all of a sudden how things got a little bit easier when it came to dealing in social situations. And now you're going to be at the top of your game. You're going to be in a place where things come a little more smoothly, that you are meeting you're coming to work and meeting your team with a fresh sense of newness and enthusiasm and expectation for the day. You're going to enjoy what you're doing, and people are going to enjoy you. And we really will be, as leaders, at the very top of our game, serving our organization, serving our team, serving our patients and their families.